What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, there are Americans waking up to 7 inches of snow in New York City, while others are riding bikes in 70-degree weather on Christmas Day? In the next 25 minutes, you'll discover why this winter is unlike anything meteorologists have seen in decades. And more importantly, which pattern is heading to your neighborhood next. Here's something that'll shock you. 20 to 30 states are experiencing temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above normal right now. That's not a typo. 15 to 20 degrees? While you might be enjoying this warmth, there's a dramatic shift coming that'll drop temperatures 30 to 40 degrees in just 72 hours across the southern states. And here's your first reward for watching. At exactly the 5-minute mark, I'm going to reveal the 3 specific dates in January when the most extreme cold will hit, and which states will see historic lows. You won't want to miss that. But first, let me paint you a picture of what's happening right now across America. In California, they're dealing with something unprecedented. Multiple feet of snow in the mountains, flash flooding in the valleys, mudslides closing highways. The National Weather Service has issued so many warnings, they've lost count. We're talking winter storm warnings, flood warnings, flash flood warnings, all at the same time in the same state. Now, here's where it gets interesting. While California is drowning and freezing, the Deep South is experiencing what some are calling a Christmas miracle of warmth. People in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, they're in short sleeves. Kids are playing outside without jackets. It's 70 degrees on Christmas Day. But here's the question you should be asking. Why is this happening? The answer lies in something called the polar vortex. And in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to explain it in a way that'll make perfect sense. Think of the polar vortex like a giant spinning top of cold air sitting over Canada and Alaska. Right now, temperatures up there are 30 to 40 degrees below average. That's cold. That would make your teeth chatter just thinking about it. But here's the thing. That cold air is locked up there like a prisoner, spinning in place. For now. The question isn't if that cold will break free. The question is when. And I can tell you exactly when. Keep watching. 368 inches. That's how much snow has already fallen in parts of the Sierra Nevada mountains this season. That's over 30 feet of snow. 30 feet! Imagine looking out your window at a snow pile taller than a 2-story house. That's the reality for some Americans right now. But while the West is getting pounded, here's what's happening in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. Winter storm watches are posted for 7 inches of snow. Now, 7 inches might not sound like much to someone in Minnesota or Michigan, but for New York City, that's a big deal. The last time New York got that much snow in a single storm was, well, it's been a while. Here's your plot twist. Some forecasting models are predicting up to 12 inches for parts of the metro area. 12 inches. That would shut down the city. Airports closed, subways struggling, millions of people stuck at home. But other models are saying it might not happen at all. So which one is right? That's the million-dollar question. And the answer depends on something as simple as whether the temperature stays at 31 degrees or rises to 33 degrees. 2 degrees. That's the difference between 7 inches of snow and a cold rain that ruins the whole forecast. You know, there's a verse in Scripture that says God sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. Matthew chapter 5, verse 45. And in moments like this, when we're watching these massive weather systems sweep across our nation, you can't help but think about the incredible power and complexity of creation. The same God who spoke the universe into existence is the one orchestrating these atmospheric rivers, these pressure systems, these temperature gradients down to the degree. Now, let me tell you about the ice situation, because this is where things get dangerous. And I mean really dangerous. 0.3 inches of ice. That's what's forecast for parts of Pennsylvania and western Maryland. Now, you might be thinking, 0.3 inches? That's nothing. But let me tell you what 0.3 inches of ice actually means. That's enough ice to snap power lines, enough to bring down tree branches, enough to cause thousands of people to lose electricity in the middle of winter. And here's the kicker. It's happening the day after Christmas, when families are still visiting, when people are traveling home from the holidays. December 26th could be a mess for millions of Americans. But wait, there's more to this story. While the Northeast is dealing with snow and ice, and California is dealing with floods and mudslides, the upper Midwest is about to get hammered with something different. Bitter cold. We're talking temperatures near or below 0 degrees Fahrenheit across Wisconsin. Highs on Tuesday that struggle to reach the 20s in many areas. 0 degrees. In case you're not familiar with that kind of cold, let me explain what that feels like. 0 degrees is the temperature where exposed skin can get frostbite in under 10 minutes. It's the temperature where your car might not start in the morning, where water pipes freeze and burst, where you genuinely risk your health just walking from your house to your car. And it's coming to millions of Americans in the next 72 hours. Now, remember that promise I made about revealing the 3 specific dates in January? Here it is. This is the information that could help you prepare, could save you money, could keep you safe. January 7th, January 15th, January 22nd. These 3 dates show up on the long-range forecasts as periods of significant cold outbreaks across the eastern United States. Not just cold, significantly below average cold. We're talking temperatures 10 to 20 degrees below normal for extended periods. January 7th looks like the first punch. Cold air dropping out of Canada, pushing all the way down to the Gulf Coast. You might see frost in northern Florida, hard freeze warnings in Georgia, temperatures in the 30s as far south as Houston. Then there's a rebound, a warm-up, just enough to make you think winter is backing off. But that's when January 15th hits, and this one looks meaner. The models are showing an upper-level pattern that could lock in cold air for 7 to 10 days. That means multiple mornings below freezing across the South. Multiple days where the high temperature in the northern states doesn't get above 20 degrees. And January 22nd, that's when things get really interesting. The European model, which is often the most accurate for long-range forecasting, is showing a pattern that looks downright Arctic. We're talking polar vortex disruption. We're talking temperatures in the northern tier states that could challenge records. But here's what you need to understand. These forecasts are 3 to 4 weeks out. They're going to change. The specific dates might shift by a day or two. The intensity might increase or decrease. But the overall trend? That's holding steady across multiple models, multiple forecast runs, multiple meteorological indicators. The cold is coming. The only question is how cold and for how long. Now let's talk about something that's already happening and isn't going to change, the drought in the Rockies. Colorado is hurting. Ski resorts that should be covered in multiple feet of snow have bare patches. Some runs haven't even opened yet. This is December, and they're struggling. Why does this matter if you don't ski? Because that snowpack in the Rockies feeds the rivers that provide water for 40 million Americans. The Colorado River, the Rio Grande, the Arkansas River. These aren't just scenic waterways. They're the lifeblood of Western agriculture and Western cities. When the snowpack is 70% below average in late December, that's a flashing red warning light for summer water supplies. That's irrigation problems for farmers. That's drought restrictions for cities. That's higher food prices for everyone. God provides for his creation in ways we often don't appreciate until they're missing. Rain in due season, snow on the mountains, rivers that flow. When those patterns shift, when those blessings are withheld, we feel the consequences for months or even years. Here's another shocking number. The North Atlantic Oscillation has been in a negative phase for 37 consecutive days. Now, unless you're a weather nerd, you probably don't know what that means. So let me break it down. The North Atlantic Oscillation, or NAO, is like a seesaw of atmospheric pressure between Iceland and the Azores. When it's positive, storms stay north and bring mild weather to the eastern United States. When it's negative, storms dive south and bring cold and snow to the mid-Atlantic and northeast. 37 days of negative NAO is significant. It means the pattern is locked in. It means storm after storm is going to take a track that favors snow for the I-95 corridor. New York, Philadelphia, Boston, these cities could see more snow this winter than they've seen in years. But here's the twist. It takes cold air to make snow. And right now, we don't have sustained cold air in place. So what happens when you get a storm with plenty of moisture, but marginal temperatures? You get forecasts like we're seeing right now, 7 inches or 2 inches, snow or rain, winter storm or cold drizzle. It's a forecasting nightmare. Let me tell you about the NAM model, because this is where things get wild. The NAM, which stands for North American Mesoscale Model, is a short-range forecasting tool that's known for doing, well, weird things sometimes. And on Christmas morning, the NAM did something that made meteorologists across the country scratch their heads. It predicted 18 inches of snow for New York City. 18 inches. That would be the biggest snowstorm in years. Schools closed, cities shut down, the whole deal. But here's the thing. No other model agreed. The European model said 7 inches. The GFS model said 10 inches. The Canadian model said 5 inches with mixed precipitation. So you've got 4 different sophisticated computer models, all running the same basic physics, all looking at the same atmospheric data, and they're giving you answers that range from 5 inches to 18 inches. How is that possible? It comes down to tiny differences in how each model handles the complex interactions between temperature, moisture, and pressure. A slight change in the forecast track of the low-pressure system, maybe 30 miles east or west, and suddenly you're in the warm sector instead of the cold sector. Suddenly, you're getting rain instead of snow. This is why meteorologists will tell you that winter weather forecasting in the transition zone is the hardest thing we do. Harder than predicting hurricanes, harder than forecasting tornadoes. Because with winter weather, you can nail the timing, nail the moisture, nail the storm track, and still bust the forecast because the temperature was 1 degree warmer than expected. Now, here's what's happening out west that nobody's talking about. Montana is getting freezing rain. Southern parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, all getting ice. This isn't making national news because it's remote, because it's not affecting major cities, but it's real and it's dangerous. Freezing rain is worse than snow. With snow, you can shovel it, plow it, deal with it. With ice, you're helpless. Roads become skating rinks. Walking becomes treacherous. And if you're a rancher with cattle out in that weather, it's a disaster. 0.1 inches of ice can glaze surfaces and make them slippery. 0.2 inches starts bringing down small branches. 0.3 inches, which is what some areas are forecast to receive, starts causing widespread power outages and tree damage. And here's something most people don't realize. Ice accumulation isn't uniform. One side of town might get 0.1 inches, while the other side gets 0.4 inches. It depends on elevation, on local topology, on 100 different microclimate factors. This is where faith and preparation meet. We're called to be wise stewards, to prepare for what's coming, but ultimately to trust in God's provision and protection. Having flashlights, batteries, bottled water, that's wisdom. Panicking and hoarding, that's fear. There's a balance, and Scripture gives us that balance. Let me give you some perspective on what's happening in California, because the numbers are almost unbelievable. In some mountain locations, they've received over 6 feet of snow in the last 72 hours. 6 feet. That's chest-high snow in 3 days. At the same time, valleys are getting pounded with rain. 8 to 12 inches of rain. That might not sound like much compared to 6 feet of snow, but think about this. 12 inches of rain falling on already saturated ground is basically guaranteed flooding. The water has nowhere to go. And when that water starts rushing down mountainsides, it picks up debris, rocks, mud, trees. This creates debris flows, which are basically wet avalanches of earth that can bury roads, destroy homes, and kill people. Southern California has dealt with 3 major debris flows in the last week. Highway 1 has been closed multiple times. Evacuation orders have been issued for thousands of residents. This is serious stuff. But here's what makes it worse. This is happening during Christmas week. Emergency responders are stretched thin. Some roads are impassable. Some communities are completely cut off. There are Americans right now who can't get to their families for Christmas, who can't get medical care if they need it, who are literally trapped by weather. And while all this is happening in the West, we've got the opposite problem in the East. Too warm, too dry. Fire danger in parts of the Appalachians because it's been so warm and dry that leaves and grass are crispy. The same week, the same country, floods and drought, snow and fire danger. This is the reality of weather in America right now. Here's your next shocking statistic. 63 degrees Fahrenheit in Ohio on Christmas Day. 63 degrees. That's more than 20 degrees above average. That's spring temperature in December, and it's not just Ohio. Tennessee hit 68 degrees. Parts of Kentucky saw 70 degrees. This isn't a mild winter day. This is a fundamental disruption of normal weather patterns. Now, some people love this. They're out golfing, having barbecues, enjoying the warmth, and that's fine. But there are consequences to weather this far outside the normal range. Plants get confused. They think spring is here. They start budding. Then when the cold hits, and it will hit, those buds die. That affects fruit crops, affects ornamental plants, affects the whole ecosystem. Insects don't die off like they should. Mosquitoes in December in Kentucky. Ticks active when they should be dormant. This affects disease transmission, affects pest populations for the following year. And then there's the energy aspect. When it's warm in winter, we use less natural gas for heating. That sounds good, but it's caused natural gas prices to drop significantly. That hurts producers, hurts the economy in energy-producing states, has ripple effects through the entire energy sector. Weather isn't just about whether you need a jacket. It's interconnected with agriculture, with energy, with the economy, with public health. A warm December has implications that last for months. But remember what I told you about that cold air locked up in Western Canada? It's still there, 30 to 40 degrees below average. Coldest air of the entire northern hemisphere right now. Just sitting there, waiting. And the pattern is shifting. We can see it in the models. That high-pressure ridge that's been keeping us warm, that's going to break down. The jet stream is going to dip. And when it dips, it's going to tap into that Arctic air and funnel it south. Tuesday of next week, temperatures near or below zero across Wisconsin. That's a 50-degree temperature drop from where we are now. 50 degrees in less than a week. Florida is going to see overnight lows below freezing in northern parts of the state. Georgia might deal with hard freeze warnings. Even the Gulf Coast could see temperatures in the 30s. This is the pendulum swinging back. This is nature correcting. This is winter finally arriving with a vengeance after a month of being held at bay. Now let me tell you about the pattern heading into late January and February, because this is where it gets really interesting. The long-range models, and we're talking 3 to 4 weeks out, so take this with appropriate skepticism, are showing something meteorologists call a negative Pacific North American pattern combined with a positive Arctic oscillation. In plain English, cold and snowy for the east, mild and dry for the west. This is the opposite of what we've had in early winter. And if it verifies, if it actually happens, we could be looking at a very active late January and February for snow in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. But the Rockies, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, they might stay warm and dry, which means that drought situation I mentioned earlier just gets worse, which means less snowpack, less water for next summer, more problems down the road. There's a phrase in Ecclesiastes, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. Weather has seasons. Patterns have seasons. What we're seeing now won't last forever. The question is, what replaces it? Here's something that should concern everyone. The soil moisture deficit across the Central Plains. We're talking Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, parts of Texas. The ground is dry, really dry. Drought Monitor shows abnormally dry to moderate drought conditions across huge swaths of this region. Why does this matter in winter? Because if we don't get snow cover, if we don't get winter precipitation, the drought just intensifies. Spring planting could be delayed. Crop yields could be reduced. Food prices could rise. Farmers are watching these forecasts very carefully. They're looking at the long-range models, they're calculating risk, they're praying for snow, and right now, the models aren't giving them much hope. The pattern for January looks like it's going to keep the Central Plains warm and dry. Storm track stays to the north and east. Precipitation stays away, unless something changes. And in weather, Something always changes. The question is when and how much. Let me give you the bottom line forecast for the next 7 days, because I know some of you are planning travel, planning activities, need to know what's coming. Next, 72 hours. Major winter storm affecting the Northeast. Snow totals of 5 to 10 inches possible from northern New Jersey through Connecticut. Ice accumulation of 0.2 to 0.3 inches possible in Pennsylvania and western Maryland. Travel impacts likely. Power outages possible. Days 4 through 7. Arctic blast affecting the eastern two-thirds of the country. Temperature drop of 30 to 50 degrees across the south. Hard freeze warnings likely from Texas to the Carolinas. Overnight lows below zero in the upper Midwest. Wind chills could reach -20 to -30 in some locations. Out west, snow continuing in the Sierra Nevada. Potential for another 2 to 4 feet in the highest elevations. Rain continuing in California valleys through Saturday, then gradually improving. Rockies staying mostly dry with a few light snow showers. That's the 7-day. Now here's what you need to know for the longer term. The pattern flip I've been talking about looks increasingly likely for early to mid-January. Multiple model runs are converging on a colder eastern U.S., warmer western U.S. pattern. This favors snow for the Northeast, favors continued drought for the Rockies. Specific storm systems beyond 7 days are impossible to forecast with accuracy. But the overall pattern, the general trend, that's becoming clearer. If you live in the East, prepare for a cold January. If you live in the West, prepare for a dry January. If you live in the middle, prepare for volatility. And here's your final reward for watching all the way through. The extended outlook for February is showing signs of a potential pattern change. The models are hinting at a breakdown of the ridge in the West, possible return of moisture to the Rockies, possible moderation of temperatures in the East. February could be the month when things finally normalize, when the West gets the snow it desperately needs, when the East gets a break from the cold. But February is 5 to 6 weeks away. A lot can change. A lot will change. What won't change is this. Weather is powerful, unpredictable, and ultimately in God's hands. We can forecast it, prepare for it, talk about it for hours. But at the end of the day, we're observers of a system so complex, so vast, that it humbles us. There are Americans tonight spending Christmas in evacuation shelters because of California flooding. There are Americans losing power because of ice storms. There are Americans preparing for a blizzard. And there are Americans in shorts and t-shirts wondering where winter went. Same day, same country, completely different realities. That's weather in America. That's winter 2024 going into 2025. Keep watching the forecasts, stay prepared, take care of your neighbors, and remember that whether it's 70 degrees or 7 below, whether it's drought or flood, snow or rain, we're all in this together. The next video is going to dive deep into that January pattern change I mentioned. I'm going to show you the specific model data, explain exactly why meteorologists are confident about this shift, and give you county-by-county forecasts for the coldest periods. You won't want to miss that. It could be the difference between being caught off guard and being fully prepared. Until then, stay safe out there. Watch those roads if you're in the winter storm warning areas. Check on elderly neighbors if the cold hits your area. And maybe say a prayer for those folks in California dealing with floods and mudslides. Weather affects all of us. How we respond to it, how we help each other through it, that's what defines us. See you in the next one.